Hi everyone, welcome to today's gardening video on knockout roses, some summer care tips. So I'm out here in my garden with my pink knockout rose. This is a double pink that I planted last fall, and we did do a video on planting those last fall, so they're just about 1 year old here. But I want to talk about knockout roses and some essential key tips to keeping them going strong and looking their best all through the growing season. So there's a few things you can do, some strategies here and some tricks to get them to look their best and be in great shape and continuing to throw out some pretty blooms late spring right through frost. So I love my knockout roses. They are one of the easier roses to care for. That is the good news. But there's still a few things that you need to do to keep them healthy and flowering. And that's really what we want out of our roses here. So they're great for zones 5 through 9. I'm in zone 6B. And once they're established, they don't need a ton of work, but I'm going to walk you through what I do for my roses here in Connecticut to keep them looking their best. Okay, so let's get right into our key tips and our strategies for our midsummer knockout rose care. So number one, I want to talk about watering. So knockout roses, once they're established, are pretty drought tolerant. So really they only need a little extra watering if you have some dry periods during the summer. And when you do get a dry period, the best thing to do is to water the base of the rose, so not the leaves. That's going to help you prevent some diseases, black spot, fungal diseases, mildew. So right at the base, you want to give them a good watering, and the best time of day to do that is morning or evening. So number two is pruning. So we're going to talk a little more in depth about this, and I'm going to show you how to do that here. So we did do a video on pruning your knockout roses, and the bulk of the pruning is done in late winter or early spring. So we do have a great video out on that. So through the summer, really you should just be deadheading your roses to promote more flowers. So I'm going to show you how I do that here. Tools that you need for your pruning or deadheading. You're going to need some sharp, clean pruners, and I also like to have some little snips on me. And then you're going to want your rose gloves. So these are really important. You want to protect your hands and your forearms from the thorns on the roses. And I have had some bad experiences with that when I haven't worn some gloves. So I'll throw up some links for you in case you're interested in what I'm using here today. So technically what we're doing is we're deadheading today, and we're deadheading to promote some more flowers. And August is actually the last month that I'm going to be deadheading my knockout roses. And that's because after August, we want them to go into dormancy. So they're going to prepare for our cold New England winters. So this will be the last month that I'm deadheading. So while I'm deadheading, I am also looking for anything that is dead, damaged, or diseased. You also may remember the 3 Ds of pruning from our pruning knockout rose video. So I'm going to do a quick once over and look for anything dead, damaged, or diseased. And then I'm just going to go ahead and lightly deadhead any of these spent blooms. So some of them here I'm a little late to getting to because they're starting to go to seed, and we don't want that. We still want our knockout rose to be putting its energy into flowering, and you can see some nice flowers here, and there's some really great new growth with some buds. So just a once over for anything that's not looking great. And that's to keep it in its best health. So when I'm doing that and I'm cleaning it up, I'm just cutting back to some healthy new growth here. So I have to say, there is a little bit of chewing on this rose, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we talk about fertilizing. We're going to get into that a little bit more. But with my roses especially, I really pick and choose my battles. So I'm not a huge fan of using a lot of chemicals, but what I am a huge fan of is really just keeping your roses in the best shape possible to keep them healthy, to have them in the right location, which is full sun, practice some really good watering practices, and making sure you have some really great soil for your roses. So if I see a little bit of chewing here, I tend to ignore it. It's not really something I'm concerned about at this point. So we may get more into that in a future video. But for my purposes of today, I'm just cleaning it up a little bit, looking for anything really suspicious or anything dead or damaged. And overall, this one looks pretty good. So let's just get to a quick deadheading here. And so here's a spent bloom right here. We're going to cut down on an angle. So we're doing our 45-degree angle, sharp, clean cut to the next set of healthy leaves. So this is what I'm clipping off here. All right, so this one here, you have the option. You can see there's some nice buds out here. You can either clip it down the whole bunch, or if you want to save this new growth here, then you'll have to get a little more nitpicky and really get in there. I'm a flower fan, so I'm just going to get a little nitpicky. Okay, now that we're done deadheading and our light pruning, I want to get to the next tip. But before we do, a couple little extras. Number one is we have 4 total knockout roses here in this garden border. And what I want to say about pruning is before you move to the next rows, you really should clean your tools in between. And that's because it's very easy to transfer diseases. So make sure you do that. And number 2 is just do a quick cleanup underneath the rows of any of the leaves. Some of them are a little bit diseased, and your petals here. So we just are really trying to prevent anything from spreading to keep our roses really healthy. So just a quick little clean here. And a little weed. Okay. All right, next I want to talk about fertilizing. And this is very important for roses because they are high feeders. They're a little more maintenance when it comes to fertilizing. So I like to do that once a month from late spring when we start caring for them right up until the end of August. So once a month. And this is what I like to use, but there's lots of options. This is a rose flower care and their granules. Remember, I talked about how important it is when you're trying to keep your roses healthy about keeping the soil at its best. So we want to make sure that we add the necessary nutrients. So I do like the granules, and it is about a half a cup for an area that is about a 3 by 3 square. So make sure you always read the instructions. And I always say less is more, because I do have very healthy soil here. And what you want to do is just sprinkle your granules around the drip line. So the outer edge here of the branches. Okay, so about a half a cup around the drip line of your plant here. And then what you want to do is you want to gently toss it under, and I'm just scratching it in about a ½ inch. We don't want to disturb any roots. And it's a slow release, so you do want to give it a good water. Okay, and that's it. So remember, this is the last time we're doing it. It's August right now, so no more feeding the rose after this application. All right, so lastly I want to talk about pests and diseases. And I'm saving it for last because if we do all the other tips and we plant this, a healthy plant in the appropriate spot, you really shouldn't have to do much in the way of pest or disease control. But if you do, and less is more, that's my hot tip on that. I do like this product here. And for me, I call this the big guns. And that's because I really do prefer organic methods. So neem oil is a great way to control some pests on your rose shrub, and it's organic, so that's an option. If you see some Japanese beetles, you can just come out here and hand pick them in the morning. But for the most part, I really try to steer clear from using chemicals. Once in a while though, I will bust this out and spray them with this rose and flower insect killer. So that's it for today. I hope you have found this video helpful, and if you have any experience or some tips that you would like to share, please feel free to do so. We love to hear from you, and put them in our comments, and we appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for joining us.